certainly appreciate you all coming out. Alicia, you're right here. Okay, Alicia McAvoy is doing fun things with her camera, all right?
They are fun.
Who we've retained to help us promote this program in the school. So she has something she needs to ask you.
So again, I'm Alicia McAvoy. It's so nice to meet you all. Don't be intimidated by this. Pretend it's not even here. But if you're the kind of person who doesn't want to pretend it's here and you would rather not be on camera, we definitely want to honor that. So if that is the case, I just ask that you move to the back in that corner over there, and I will know that that back corner where you see Kevin raising his hand, I will know that means not to put you on camera. Otherwise, fair warning, going once, going twice, and if you've got a gray hat, it's going on camera. It's going on. Thank you so much.
Just a couple of things. All of you, what we're talking about tonight is a Hillsdale Barney Charter School that we want to bring to Mills, kindergarten through 12th grade, and you'll find out a lot about it as we go on. I put on every other chair the Hillsdale imprimis. They do a guest speaker about every month, and this is free, okay? And if you want to get that, they're very, very good. There'll be political leaders, there'll be professors, etc. There'll be a lot of people that you will recognize, there'll be a lot of people that you don't. It is a free publication, and the way you get it, right, is at the bottom it says, "Send me imprimis now." Just put that into your confuser, and this page will come up, all right? And then you can go ahead and click on that button after you put your name in, and you'll get the imprimis from that time. It goes out now to over 5 million people in the United States every month, so it's a very good publication. Two other things that are back on the back table with where the water is. This is the 1776 report. Dr. Arnn, Larry Arnn, is the head of the Hillsdale College. He's the president of the college, and he was the chairman of this commission. And he has, this commission was appointed by President Trump, and he has the honor of being discharged the first day of the Biden administration, all right? So this commission no longer exists. But they made this report, and I'm sad that they don't exist because it's a good report, tells us how important 1776 is to us. And then back on that back table is also The Proper Role of Government by Ezra Taft Benson, who was Secretary of Agriculture, and it's a real good write-up of the proper role of government in the U.S. Constitution, how important it is. There's probably some stuff in it that you might not agree with, but that's okay. There might be some stuff in there that I don't totally agree with, but lots of things I read are that way. But the key to this school that we're bringing is that these people, and you'll hear me talk more about it, do an unbelievably good job in educating our youth. I'm the chairman of the board of the Wyoming Classical Academy that has just been formed. We've not been in existence very long, starting this charter school. I'll tell you a little more about how it came about later on. State Senator Charles Scott, right here. Welcome, sir. Thank you. Representative Kevin O'Hearn, I think is the Mills. Isn't this your area?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then Representative Pat Sweeney. Pat, would you stand up? We appreciate Representative Sweeney. He was very helpful to us, as was Representative O'Hearn and Senator Scott, in getting this charter law changed so that we would have a chance to get that school here. Representative Senator Scott is our vice chairman of this starting group here that's trying to put this together. Dr. Clark Jensen's on our board right here. Appreciate him being here. He's also the vice chairman of the Natrona County School District number 1. So it's really nice to have someone from them, because we're going to them first, but we may end up going to the state elected officials. That's the other authorizer. There are 2, you can go to either. We'd like to go local if we can. That's what we'd like to do. That may not work out. If it doesn't, we'll have to go to the other. Morgan Olson is here, right back here. Okay. Linda Simonson helps us all the time. She's not on the board, but I need to introduce her because you may be seeing her at your home talking about different things about what we're doing. She's very, very helpful to us. We have 2 people that we're going to ask the whole board if they can be on our board, and I want you to introduce them. Cliff Whitlock will be a new board member here. And let's see, Robin Spiva, right here, way back here. Okay. Our chairman for parents that have children that would be in the school or would sign up and may be in the school, okay, is Frank Michaeli. Frank, would you stand up so you know who you are, okay? And then you'll get to know this next guy a lot tonight. This is Craig Horton. He's with Academica. They're an educational service provider. The administration of our schools in Natrona County up on the hill, okay, costs 21%. I think that's about right, isn't it, Pat? For the cost? Okay, about 21%. They are our administration, okay? They don't hire the teachers, that's done by our board. The board hires the principal, and the principal goes out and finds the teachers, and then the board, the charter board, does the hiring, that type of thing. But there's all kinds of administration that goes on to run a school, okay? And I think you guys cost about 5%, is that about right? So it's quite a nice savings that they do for us, and you'll find out he knows his business very, very well. Hillsdale Barney Charter School, they have now about 24 of these schools around the United States, and we'll tell the story in a bit about how we're able to get one of those here, we hope. We're applying in January, this coming January, with them. Their job is to train the teachers for us. So they're the ones that actually train the new staff for the teachers. I did it. You're all introduced. Appreciate very, very much your coming. We have a video to show and then a group of slides. And I think it's plenty informal enough. They can go ahead anytime and interrupt us and
it's fine with me if it's...
And respond to questions, so that'd be good. So I'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you, sir. So the first thing we'll do, I have about a 5-minute video. There's not a lot of charter schools in Wyoming, and there's not one here. So about a 5-minute video about what a charter school is, answers maybe a third of the questions that you'll have. So let's watch that together. I tested this like 7 times. So when I push this button, I think it's gonna work, but it's a computer, right? So.
What is a charter school? That's a great question, and it's difficult to answer in a short bit.
Charter schools, if managed correctly and if they have the right academic program, quite frankly, can provide children and families who traditionally don't have options. They have the institutional traditional school in their neighborhoods. They can provide for them a quality option to really give and introduce the young people to an opportunity that otherwise they would not have.
You know, in my mind, a charter school is a parent's ideal public school. It has been for so many years that our parents chose their schools based on their zip code or based on their neighborhood. And so charter schools give parents and families the option of looking at how their children learn best, what the priorities are for their families, and then choose a school that actually fits their student and fits the family.
A charter school is a public school, first and foremost. We are still a public school. but we have parents that have been organized that they would like a different choice for their children, where parents can have more involvement in the say of their children's education.
Education, even though we hire government to help us, education is a parent's responsibility. There's nothing more important than public education, led by parents, driven by parents, where the quality of education is defined by parents.
Not only the teachers and the administration, but also the parents, they all kind of come together and work to create kind of a community where everyone gets input into the school.
It really is about choice. It's about parents being able to choose a specific type of education or curriculum or structure or style of a school.
A charter school is a really cool little concept. It's basically members of a community get together and they decide that they want to create a better school to fit a certain population of students or have a certain angle or a philosophy on education.
Every charter school is different. Every charter school has its own kind of mission and its own purpose in this world. And if you're actively looking for a school for your kid, you owe it to yourself to go and check into charter schools in your area. And whatever you do, though, don't assume that the first one you see is indicative of the next one. Every charter school is different in all sorts of ways. Probably some that you'd expect and some that would surprise you.
All charters look totally different. Depending on what their charter is, depending on what they focus in on, they're all going to look totally different.
The curriculum that we have here, we get to go up to the mountain and do all this experiential education, and I love it.
Now that I'm older, I realize this, but I felt kind of just pushed through the system. Whereas in the charter school, there was actual concentration on how I'm perceiving the material, and do I get to understand what I'm learning, and how am I going to apply it in the future when I'm an adult.
Private school runs off their own funds and everything, and a public school will run off of the government funds. We are government funded, but we're basically a smaller organization that will find something that we want to do. So we focus on the arts, and we focus on small individual attention, and focus on quantum learning. So that would be our thing at BSC for Charter High School, because you're a charter school, so you have your own vision for something.
We are funded through the per pupil funding through the public school system. We have our own individual governing boards rather than being governed through the district's governing board.
Being able to use our money, being able to buy the equipment or supplies that we need, and then set our calendar and our schedule.
Parents have a say in what their children can learn, the dress code, the policies here. I think the voice of the parent is what sets apart a charter school versus a neighborhood school.
We operate by the same set of rules that everyone in a public education system operate in. We are a public school. We are a public school of choice. And that's really the defining characteristic for us.
Parent involvement is crucial within the charter school system because we do not have all of the funding that a normal neighborhood district school has.
So they really have to depend on parents stepping up to help out with a variety of different things depending on what the school's focus is.
The final reason I chose charter school was I wanted to be an active participant, and I definitely found that here.
For the full education of the child, it's not just the teacher's responsibility, it's not just the school, it's the parents. Parents have to be involved.
I think it's important for new parents and parents who are looking into charter schools and not quite sure about them to know that it really is up to them. They are in charge of their child's education.
Research shows that families that are more involved in their children's education, the children tend to be more successful.
There's a lot of voice and power in the parent at a charter school.
Every child has the right to a high-quality seat in public education.
When I had my daughter come in to start school, I got to talk to the teachers. I got to know how they really do care about the students and what they learn. The charter school to me is the best place you can have a student go.
Whole video is paraphrasing it is not a school's job to educate your children. It is your job to educate your children. Thank you for considering partnering with us You may partner with your public school in your neighborhood. You may choose, this is a choice district, you may choose to go across town and school your kids somewhere else. But you should think about education as you partnering with the government to do a good job. So what we want you to do is have this choice. We want to present another choice that might be the partnership that you want to form with your family to educate your kids. So I love this slide. There are two sides to the education coin. So what's the obvious one side? What do we have to teach our kids? Anybody?
Reading, writing,
Reading, right? Reading, writing, arithmetic, numeracy, literacy. So that's the one side. But the question that I want you to ask is, what's the other side of the coin? And that's the charter school choice. The charter school choice is some schools focus on expeditionary learning. You saw the one kid that likes to go to the mountains and do stuff in the mountains. Other schools are Montessori based and they're very delayed. They're just a different model. And then there's this kind of school. It's a buttoned up classical liberal arts education, which means that we have a specific focus in imparting scholarly knowledge. Very important to us. And then the other side of the coin at this school, the other side of the coin is we want to talk to your kids about the American Republic. Understanding American history, understand the Republic as it's governed by the Constitution and grounded in the Declaration of Independence. We believe, as I just told my colleague over here, today's drama, what's happening in society today is not unique. It's happened all throughout our history with this same venom and with this same acrimony. And we believe that the Constitution, if followed faithfully, will get us through this because it's gotten through everything else. But if we lose sight of that, if we forget about it, if we don't know the Constitution and the reasons why it was written the way it was written, understanding the founders, we'll never continue on our republic. And so our focus, the focus of Hillsdale Charter Schools, the focus of the Barney Charter School Initiative, is to remind people how we got here and to have faith that we'll continue on. That's the importance of what we teach on the other side of the coin. Russ, you're welcome to jump in about Hillsdale, but we've chosen the Hillsdale College curriculum. This is, Hillsdale is a college in Michigan. They're famously conservative. It's fair that we say that. They wrote a K-12 curriculum. The K through 8 curriculum is based on the core knowledge sequence. Core knowledge are those books, if you've read them, what your first grader needs to know, what your second grader needs to know. That's the core knowledge sequence.
Not Common Core.
Not Common Core. They both have the word core in them. It's a little bit different. So schools like this and many others teach the core knowledge sequence from kindergarten through 8th grade. It's a very scripted, purposeful education that teaches kids this body of about 5,000 individual facts. So that a kid in first grade in the core knowledge school in Colorado, where I live, learns the same things as a kid in core knowledge in Idaho, as all over the country. The idea is, let's define a common set of knowledge and give it to kids, instead of just, making it up school to school, which isn't a bad thing. Teachers do a great job in all of the public schools. But why not be more deliberate about what that education is? That's what core knowledge means. And then the K through, or the high school curriculum, 9 through 12, that's more based on this idea that we want to introduce kids to the history of America, to Greek and Latin histories. Kids at these schools learn Latin from second grade on, so that when they're older, in many of these schools, they can read original manuscripts in Latin. That's not always the case. But Latin is also the foundation of medicine, of all sciences, of law. In order to converse in those languages, you use Latin. And so we provide, and it's also many of the roots of the English language are Latin, right? The Latin roots. So we try to provide kids with the tools they would need to succeed. It's a classical curriculum.
I'll talk very quickly about 3 other areas of the curriculum. Language arts, reading. I'm going to call on Senator Scott. What's going on in Wyoming and in Casper in reading?
Okay. And I want to be very brief, but
This is his first time to ever be very brief.
Yeah. I represent, bar none, Vista West, Paradise Valley, and everything north and west of that in this county. In the state senate, I chair the state senate's education committee, and I knew when I took that role on that one of my objectives was to try to improve the quality of our public schools. And as we got into it, one of the things we found was a major problem in the reading area. About a quarter of the kids in our public schools do not learn how to read adequately. They're not reading at grade level. And when that happens, you're behind the 8 ball for the rest of your life. This modern, used to be there were jobs around for, and I heard it in my business, you want somebody with a weak mind and a strong back. That isn't much true anymore. You need to have the quality education on the academic subjects to do almost anything these days. And when we're missing a quarter of the students, that's a real problem. I want to see charter schools go because, one, I think they will do a better job in teaching the fundamentals, particularly reading. And second, because I want to see competition in the public school system. Competition is what makes this world go around, at least in this country. And it's one of the things that makes this country successful. And I'll just very briefly give you the statistics on reading. This is 3rd grade level. And if you don't know how to read by 3rd grade level, you're in trouble because everything else assumes that you do in your education. The statewide assessment testing shows that only, on average, 54.8% of the students in Wyoming are proficient or advanced in reading. Natrona County is a little under that. We're at 49.2%. The people that are described as below basic in reading in our statewide assessment test, state average is 21.7. Natrona County is 26%. Those are people who will not succeed in life because they do not know how to read. And it's a disgrace. We're trying to figure out what's going to happen, but this is one of the potential solutions. I think you can be assured if your child goes to this charter school, they do things about kids that are not able to learn how to read. And 95+% can be taught. There are some people that just unfortunately are not born with it, with everything. And we do the best we can for them in special ed. That's less than 5% of the population. Everybody else ought to learn how to read, and this charter school will do that for your child. And the process, I think, will put pressure on the rest of the public school system to figure out what it takes to get the job done.
Thank you very much. The reading skills coming out of this school, they'll be starting out in kindergarten. By the time they're in 3rd grade, they'll be reading on a 6th grade level or higher, most of them. They will have almost no reading failures. They might have a few that are a little deficient. If they do, maybe some summer school, maybe a few held back. That may happen. But they will teach these children well to read. Math, be the best math curriculum. I like very much the math curriculum in the Fort Casper Academy. I was part of that. My daughter was the one that actually brought it in. Saxon math, it's very, very good. This is Singapore math, it's better. Saxon math does a great job, but it doesn't explain nearly as well how it comes about and why. Okay, you still have to learn the fundamentals. You have to learn your number facts. Okay, that's still part of it. But Singapore is the #1 educated group of people now coming out of 12th grade in the world. And the United States is now down to about 24. We've fallen back, way back. American exceptionalism, that's why we're at Hillsdale. I've not found anyone that does American exceptionalism as well as them. They will come out knowing how important America is, that why do people all over the world want to come to America? Well, because we're the best, and people want to come here. We can look at our border, and that's a huge problem. That's all I'm going to say about that. Say nothing. Okay? But we want our people to know and be taught how good America is and why. And they do the best job. So I just want to touch base on those parts of the curriculum. But it is very, very thorough. Okay? People ask me, do they do math? Yes. Do they do art? Yes. Do they do music? Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
So you've read these while we were sitting here. I won't go over them chapter and verse, but I do want to point out that I believe this encompasses the 3 things that I always say kids need to succeed, and you'll have different words for these, but maybe the same thoughts. Kids need high expectations, structure, and love. Those 3 things. I think every educator probably has their version of that, but we don't fail in expecting the very best from our kids. These schools are hard. These are hard schools. My wife is a teacher at this kind of school. Her first graders, to give you an example of what they do in English language arts, they're in their grammar. They learn in first grade all throughout. In their grammar, they diagram sentences. This week's diagramming, I had a copy and I meant to put it up. They broke out articles, nouns, subject nouns, verbs, objects, predicates, and object of the predicate. So that's no joke, and they diagram that. And that's in first grade. So that by the time they get into middle and upper school, these kids can write with an understanding of how to write, like why the words make sense and why they go together like they go. That's the kind of in-depth education kids get. It makes the kids stronger readers, stronger writers, and stronger thinkers. And you've seen the rest. Put a question aside if you have one about that slide. So we talked about the core knowledge sequence. I got ahead of myself. The 3 S's, it's structured, it's sequenced, and it's spiraling. What that means is all of the teachers know what they're going to teach in January of 2023 and 2024 and 2025. So they can prepare their lessons and refine them over time instead of constantly changing curriculum. This is a 25-year-old curriculum now, and it gets very few tweaks. District schools, oftentimes, districts generally bring in a flavor of the year every 4 or 5 years. There's education spins, right, with new ideas. There's not a lot of new ideas in core knowledge. The idea is it's unchanging knowledge. And it spirals. So you'll learn about the Mayans in first grade, my wife teaches, and then they touch it again in the 4th grade. And the Mayans come up again in the 8th grade. And all of the subjects go like that. So we build scaffold upon prior learning, prior content knowledge. Singapore is the #1 student. They have the #1 student achievement in 4th and 8th grade again this year. It's the Singapore National Curriculum. It's not rocket science. They just have a different way, a conceptual way of teaching 10-based math, which is what we do. It's just structured a little bit different. Parents can teach it. Parents sometimes need to come to class with the kids, come to a parent night and learn how Singapore works, but it's a great curriculum and our kids do wonderfully in it. There's a scientifically proven way to teach reading, and this was published and proven in 1984. Schools still struggle today in implementing the basics: phonics, phonemic awareness, fluency, vocabulary comprehension, and I would add grammar, the kinds of things I just talked to you about. Those 5 things plus grammar are scientifically proven to be effective ways to teach reading. It's not whole word reading, it's not look at the picture and take contextual clues, not picture clues. It's this, phonics and phonemic awareness, the most important 2. There's a flyer on the tables, and if you use your phone, I've tried it, you can click the QR code and get to an invitation for an event called Reviving American Classical K-12 Education. It's an event about these kinds of schools. It'll be on Hillsdale. It's Thursday night this week. There's flyers on the back tables. I would encourage you, if you're interested in this model, interested in sending your kids or telling your neighbors about it, watch this. If it was an hour, I would be surprised. And you'll know a lot more about the thinking behind how this all came to happen. So where we are, Russ talked a bit about the makeup of our group right now, and we're looking for a group of 12 parents that are super invested, that want to carry this message out, and then they're going to carry that message out to 100 different families, and we will get the numbers of kids that we need to demonstrate that there's enough support in this community to have our charter school. So I'll say that all again. We have to have a demonstration of support, meaning kids' names on paper, not binding, but parents that say, you know, I'm interested in that school, and if that school comes up, I think I would send my kids there. That's a letter of intent. It doesn't lock you into anything. We need hundreds of those because we want to open a school with hundreds of kids. So if you know families that are interested in this kind of education, send them to us. Our email address is info@wyoclassical. It was on a couple of those prior slides. info@wyoclassical.com. Here it is, .org, sorry. You can talk to us tonight. You can fill out a letter of intent tonight. The QR codes on the signs in back take you right to the sign-up sheet. So you can do it that way as well. And we have iPads. I'm happy to sign you up tonight. So that's the most important thing, is we need to learn about kids that are interested in this model so we can get them on the intent list.
Okay, we need those 12 families that want to help and want to be involved. I'm going to ask Frank to say a word or two right now, if you would. This is Frank's Michaelite.
Yeah, just a word or two, because that's pretty much everything I was going to say. I have 4 young kids here in Casper. The biggest thing, I'm really excited about the potential. They've already covered most of the important things, but a critical step in the next progress is getting parent support. What was just mentioned, letters of intent, and I just want to make myself available. If you are willing, or you know somebody that is willing, please come and visit with me, get my cell phone, and we'll go from there. We'll make a plan, and we're going to work on getting the groups of 12, the group of 100. The most important thing is rallying some support, finding people that, a non-binding commitment, but people that would be interested if this were an option in the town. So, my name's Frank. I'll be available. I'll be hanging out around. If you are interested, please come visit with me, and we'll get together moving forward.
Thank you.
I didn't do a sign-up sheet tonight, mostly because I forgot, but I'll say it's because sometimes they're awkward and you don't know if you want to put your name on the list for everybody. So if you want to be more engaged and involved and get more information from us, just send the email to info@wyoclassical.org. And we'll engage with you as much as you'd like, and certainly get you more information. We will ask every parent to read a book called How to Educate a Citizen. The father of all of this, 25 years ago, is a guy named E.D. Hirsch. He wrote a book called Cultural Literacy. In that book, he said, I think all Americans should know a common body of knowledge. He defined the 5,000 things. Created an uproar in education. Who dare say what we would teach kids? You left out American Indians, or you left out some other thing about baseball. And so there was a robust discussion, which is what he wanted. Like, what as Americans do we think we should teach our kids, and that they should teach their kids? So they came up with those 5,000 things, and they built a curriculum around it. So now, all these years later, E.D. Hirsch has written his last book, so he says, and it all synthesizes down to, I think it's a 200-page book, and it talks about the importance of teaching kids things that matter, not concepts, but actual things. Going into a class and saying, this week we're going to learn these things about the Mayans, and these things about baseball, and these things about math. And so he tells the story better than anyone else can, but he shares a story about how that education can unify the country. And then a little bit about me. My company provides services to charter schools, so we don't do education. So what the folks on this board have decided that they want this education model. We do finances, accounts payable, payroll. We help with board meetings. We keep grant reporting active. We apply for grants. We help apply for charters. So we do the business of the school, things that the district would do. We don't mess with employees. We don't mess with the education. The board runs all of that stuff. So I'm a business management company. That's what we do. We manage several hundred schools across the country, and we're good at this. And we demonstrated that to this board in order that I could work with you today. So that, my friends, is everything that we have in the presentation proper. So I would ask one brave person to ask a question, because then that'll let everybody else start asking questions too. And I already have a
I got a lot of questions.
Very
but
good.
I want to start with the first one being, say we go and get letters of intent from people and they have students that they know are not going to be up to par on where you're at in education. How do we influence them to come to your school?
Well, so up to par, you mean that they haven't received the education, say, by 3rd grade. That if we had a kid from kindergarten that had progressed through our school, where he might be in 3rd grade. That's a good point. So we're going to open as K-5. Because when you get 6th graders in that can't read, that's really hard to remediate in the 6th grade where they're learning so much. But we think if we grab K-5 kids, that gives us enough time to get them up to where they need to be in reading. So lots of interventions, lots of after school, lots of pullouts. And we get the kids where they need to be. Everybody gets grade level exposure, and then the kids that need to have ability grouped, we ability group those kids.
Let me take another shot at that too. It's really a great question, right? I got this from Hirsch, and he got it from one of the people that have one of these kinds of schools in the Bronx, okay? There are 6 successful schools in the Bronx in really tough neighborhoods. And this headmaster of these schools, okay, he said, every child is a gift. But he says, some gifts you unwrap quickly. Some of them take more time. And that's how you have to look at every child. So if we had a child that needed some more help in 1st grade, okay, to stay up, we may have to have summer schools, okay? But our job is to get that person so they're an adequate reader, okay, by the time they leave 3rd grade. Now, half the 3rd graders are going to be incredible readers, okay? But they're not all going to be incredible when they leave 3rd grade. But these schools are amazing. My personal belief in, we have all kinds now of remedial teaching in our schools. These solve a lot of that problem. They really do. I'm a tutor, okay? Mostly the people I tutor are not adequate readers.
Oh, I believe you. There's a
they-
reason my kids aren't in the public schools.
They all get it. They all get it. Okay? And I'm I don't think what I do is quite as good as what they do, quite frankly. I think this has been improved. I'm a Romualdus Spalding Writing Road to Reading teacher, okay? And I think this is a little better. And the reason I think that is because my granddaughter, who home teaches, told me that, and she uses what I've taught her.
Go ahead.
I know one of the problems with our public schools is they receive federal money. Once you receive the money, you got the strings attached with them poking and prodding, telling you how to run things. I understand that charter school has some of its it has some of its
I'll back off.
own say, but how much leeway do they have? How much intervention are they able to prevent, I guess?
We take title money like any other school, so Title I, Title II, you've heard Title IX before. Title money follows special education students, it follows gifted students, it follows our kids that need free and reduced lunch. So we are bound by all of the federal rules that follow title money. We also are free and we get waivers from school district and from state laws and school district policies about things that we have in our curriculum. So I haven't experienced, I've been the board chair of a charter school for many years. I haven't experienced a moment where I was confronted by a federal regulation that interfered with our ability to deploy our curriculum. Generally, the things that they pass down that follow title money are fair. It's usually about fairness and distributing money fairly. So we are probably
concerned at how they're using it or how they're going to change our curriculum to teach our children that very fact, that the money is for the education of our children. So let's make sure that we're educating them. So I love that that's how you're thinking, because we're going to use that money for exactly what it's intended. You have something to say, Senator Scott? I love that.
Yeah. And let me throw in one thing. Wyoming, we are fortunate. We are funding our public schools better than almost anybody else in the country. Last I saw, just Alaska with its tremendous distance problems, and New York, with its big bureaucracies, we're managing to spend more. So the charter school funding should be adequate so that we can do the complete job without having to resort to federal money if the federal strings prove to be a problem. And having it controlled by the local parents, that would be a decision that the parents could make, that, no, the feds went one step too far this time. We better not take that, because the funding should be adequate to get the job done without them. And that's the way we calculate our funding as a result of the Supreme Court decision. And we are so much ahead of almost everybody else. Unfortunately, the consultant we hired to advise us on funding said, Wyoming, you're not getting your money's worth. So we're trying to improve that. That's where the competition that I'm seeking comes from.
Follow the money instead of the money following the kids. And we are paying, like Senator Scott said, you know, we're in $18,000-$19,000 per student here in Wyoming. So where is that funding coming for this school? And the reason I asked it is because we do have a few private schools here in the Casper area. And unfortunately, they don't get the funding like public schools do. And we lose teachers, you know, because we can't pay them. I would just like to be assured that, you know, we have funding available for this charter school. We are going to pay the teachers, so we get the good teachers. And gosh, in hopes that someday this money will actually follow the kids. So I'd just like to know where the money's.
Okay, I'll take that one. The money is taxpayer money. The way it works is the budget should be negotiated between the charter school and the school district. And you'll get, and it'll be on a per pupil basis is my suspicion, because that's the way we allocate to the school districts, with extras for the school districts that have special problems. And it's an ungodly complicated formula. The provision in the law is if you have to go to the State Loan and Investment Board, the 5 elected officials, to get your charter approved, and you can't get an agreement from your local school district on that, then you'll get funded at 80% of what they get. And that ought to work because we've got top-heavy bureaucracy. So it's taxpayer money, and frankly, I think it should be more than adequate. We were advised we needed to go to, I forget, it was 70% or something, and we said, let's put a little margin in there and said 80. So that's where the money's coming from. It's taxpayer, and that should be more than adequate for what's needed to get the job done, because we won't have some of the frills. And the advantage of negotiating with the school district is we could very well, and the school district in the past has been open, particularly to homeschoolers and whatnot, for as you get up toward the high school levels, to say maybe cut a deal that, okay, if a kid wants to take Russian or Chinese or something like that, they can do that in the public school, and you can have that kind of negotiation go on as to how it will work. Because the school district does have some pretty rich and pretty good offerings, particularly as you get to the high school level. So that's important. You want the school district to be a cooperative part of the school district, the charter school, and the law is designed to foster that. But we know sometimes the educational establishment just doesn't want to have anything to do with the charter school.
No, and
Because
if I may,
the teachers that you asked, okay, they'll be well compensated and be comparable to what the district is paying. Okay.
that's great to hear.
Yeah.
And if I may just follow up a little bit on what Senator Scott
Sure.
said. So, you know, unfortunately, I've had the experience when I was a former representative of going in front of the school district 3 times with people that wanted to start charter schools. And we were shot down every time because they just did not want charter schools. I was so happy when I saw this one come out, because with, you know, Senate File, of course, 130, gave it the opportunity where it's the school district or the SLIB board or the 5 elected officials. And I think that made all the difference in the world.
It does.
And
that was Senator Scott, okay? We came back from the National Alliance for Charter Schools. The man that I worked with was Russ Simnick. And we came with a board that the governor appointed, which is standard, to get us alternate so that there could be somebody else to go to. Senator Scott said, because of another senator on his committee, that we didn't want to have a new board in Wyoming. And so he said, well, let's just go to the SLIB board. To the SLIB board, it's the state elected officials. It's the investment board of the state. It's 5 elected officials. And we already know that if we have a solid application, that they'll be with us. So we're not Pollyannas. We know that the local board may not grant our application. Senator Scott and I both would like to see us, and so would Clark Jensen, Dr. Jensen. We'd like to cooperate with the local board. We cannot guarantee that, okay? And so if that doesn't work, that's why there's an alternative. That's a very good one. We could go first to them, but that law doesn't kick in until July 1st, 2022, okay? So we're gonna be applying, first we're gonna apply to Hillsdale and say, Hillsdale, we're wonderful. We followed what you told us. They told me, just a little quick history here. I called up Eric Kirkendall at Hillsdale. I'd watched all these beautiful people marching last summer, not this summer that we just had, but the summer before. And they're marching to burn down America. These are college graduates, these are kids in college. I said, what are these people doing? What's going on? And they're marching to change to a socialistic system. Well, that's a failure formula. Every place it's been tried, it's failed. And so I said, well, gee, what can I do about it? which I know several sitting in this room have had the same thing, said the same thing. And I said, well, one thing I could do is, you know, we have a charter law, we can get a good charter school. And Hillsdale's a good one, best I knew of. So I called him up, and he said, we need to bring one to Wyoming. He said, well, you're gonna have to stay in need, because we have limited resources, and we can only come into those states that have solid, good charter laws. You need to be in the top half, and you are in the bottom 3. We were 42nd out of 45, okay? I said, well, what do I do about that? He said, you go to the National Alliance of Charter Schools. And I said, well, who are they? And so he gave me the phone number. The guy's name, my name's Russ Donnelly. Many of you don't know me. His name's Russ Simnick, so that was easy for me. I remembered that one, okay? And he wrote it up. And then we went to Senator Scott, and that's where we got the slip board. Our thinking is, the local school boards around Wyoming, this is our thinking. You can even get a nice cooperative situation with your charter school by helping them, okay? And I'm really pleased that Clark Jensen's on our board, all right? By helping them, okay? Or they can go to the alternative, okay?
So, I don't know, is it former Speaker
Stand
Donnelly?
up, speak up.
Former
'Cause
Speaker Donnelly?
I'm a little hard of hearing, okay?
All right, so.
I'll turn my earrings up too.
Will this academy also be accredited? I mean, will it have accreditation like the WASC or some accreditation to this charter school as well?
We will pursue whatever accreditation the school district has or they require of us. We assume that there will be an accreditation standard we have to meet, and we certainly will meet.
That's good. Thank you.
As far as the state's assessments is concerned, is the Fort Casper Academy. You're looking at the grandfather of that school. It's a solid, good school. They're testing out at 70%. So why am I here? Why do I want this? I honestly think after several years, it'll take 3 or 4 years, because you're starting out with kindergartners, okay, and you're retraining 5th graders, okay? I think in 3 or 4 years, we're gonna be testing out at 85 to 90%. Okay, Podere in Cheyenne is a charter school. They're testing out in the 80 to 85. Snowy Range at the University of Wyoming in Laramie, testing out 80 to 85%. I think we're gonna kick their butts and be right here in the city of Mills. That's going well. Sabrina, where are you? Sabrina Kemper, Mike Coleman, back here, the city administrator, the community development lady. They have been so helpful to us, okay? And that's going well. We think that in the next few weeks or month that we're gonna have the K through 12 site. That's gotta be a 12 to 15 acre site. We can remodel your existing school. It's not in too bad a shape, quite frankly. We're not talking a lot of money. That'll be a temporary, okay? But we'll be in there for a while till we get the other school built, all right? Now I'm gonna answer your question. Once this tests out, and is that good? And plug your ears, Clark. We'll try to go and get another one in the east side of town.
I would say one thing to that, and that is it's an advantage to have the Fort Casper as a competitor, because it means that you've got to be good to beat them. That's what makes the world go around in our competitive system.
Really does.
So that'll help us, I think, in
this one.
That'll help every school in the district. Okay, I've got one in the middle and one to the left. Okay, we'll come over here. Go ahead.
Mine is more on the desire to know, do we follow the same rules as the school district? Because all around the country, you know, we are now having gender neutral bathrooms and all of those things. And it's, you know, writing on the wall before it exists in my own.
Yeah, there won't be any critical race theory taught. We will not be doing what the New York Times calls the 1619 Project. I like Jamestown. On my mission, I live 5 miles from Jamestown. There's a lot of great history there. And there were slaves brought there in 1619. That does not define America. 1776 is what defines America. All men are created equal. They're endowed by I can say it, Biden can. By their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The reason Jefferson said the pursuit of happiness, there were over 20 things that he felt were inalienable rights, and if he'd have made that long list, he felt it'd be boring. So he just said the pursuit of happiness. Right at the top of the list is the right to own property. How many kids want to own their own car when they get to be 16? About 98% of them. Property's important. Okay, does that answer you enough?
Russ, can I speak?
We're not, you know, this thing, the parents are so much in control of these things. You know, Michael I's parent group that's gonna grow and grow and grow, okay, are gonna be the one that drives it. But the curriculum is the Hillsdale curriculum. That's what we teach. We don't get into this or that or the other thing, okay? There are boys and there are girls, okay? Let me tell you one other thing while I'm on this soapbox, which I am. One of my favorite friends was Leo Sanchez. He was the wrong political party and I never got him convinced of that. He's passed on. Great man, United States Marine, okay? And Leo says, I'm not Mexican American. I'm an American. We're not gonna have Polish Americans and Irish Americans and Black Americans and Mexican Americans and Latin Americans. We're gonna have Americans. There's no discrimination, okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
To the kind of school.
Miss Linda, did you have a comment?
Yeah, can I address that a little bit? Because I've been at this with the inception as well, trying to get this right for everybody. And my profession is an educator. And I have been working in the public school system, been taking care of family for a few years. But my goal is to be a part of a charter school. And what I want and what I'm pushing for and what the board is pushing for is a school that's going to teach the Constitution, moral values, again, so, and have the voice of the parents really be heard in the school. Do they not want the bathrooms that way? Then they say, I don't want that, and they get a voice.
So do we say the Pledge of Allegiance?
And you say the Pledge of Allegiance, and you get back to the values that we need to have in this country. And we get back to teaching the things that the way they need to be taught, but teaching the phonics that was taken out of the school system so the kids can't read. You know, my experience in the public schools, K-2 mostly, teaching reading, but also English as a second language, teaching it through the whole district of here in Casper, teaching the teachers how to be teachers. And so my goal is to make a school that surpasses what we already have here in areas of both the curriculum and getting back to what we need to have to make this a good country again. You know, the moral values that, and by morals I'm saying there's some moral virtues that we still need to be teaching. Be honest, be fair, be kind, you know, that shouldn't be left out of the curriculum. And when I was in the school system, I was having to teach stuff that I didn't like anymore, that it gotten into the curriculum that conflicted with what I thought should be good moral values for our country.
because those were in the kindergarten books that the kindergartners were reading, and you probably have seen some of that. Okay, so my goal is to get all that changed, to make a better school. And I figured when I was in the public school system and teaching, I was able to get those kids 2 grades above level. I think that they can do that. The way the public school system is set up, they don't want you to get them that high. You screw up the teachers up above you if you get your kids too high. So they discourage you from advancing those kids to 2 grades level above. But I think it can be done because I was doing it.
Linda's passionate, can you tell?
Okay.
So I don't want to be the Debbie Downer of the bunch, but I'm going to be the Debbie Downer. So if we're gonna do Title I, Title II, Title IX, which is already here in Natrona County with the gender inclusion, because if you read the Wyoming High School Athletic Association handbook, it already states that if a boy decides he wants to be a girl, he can play on the girls' team. Same with girls to boys. So if we're gonna follow federal dollars, because that's what it is, how is this not still federal? How is this still not gonna be part of the federal system? Because I don't want my kid, who's gonna be a kindergartner next year, part of the public system. I don't want him testing in 2nd grade, 4th grade, 6th grade, 8th grade. I don't want him doing SEL, CRT. Yeah, any of it.
And I totally agree.
And I appreciate your passion over here, because I'm the same way. I appreciate yours. I think the pledge should be said every single day. I'm a vet. I know there's vets in here.
Right.
However, I mean,
well, we
I want to be real on this one.
Let's let Russ respond.
And then
the first part, what you're saying, because I hear your objection, absolutely.
Yeah,
And we
so-
agree with you, and we understand there's some problems, but Russ has some real good ideas.
No, and I
Let's
love
just-
the ideas.
Let's just take it in.
You might, on the federal funds, okay, there are some things, if they have wrong string attacks, you just don't take them.
Well, is this going to be a school of choice for kids? Because if it's a school of choice, that's federal funding based on the school buses, right? And the Title I and Title IX. So how do we get over that?
You don't accept the money.
Well, then,
You don't take the money and you don't take the regulations. This is an interesting, I served as appropriations chairman, all right? And everything that they gave you was, I love Ronald Reagan's comment. He says, the closest thing to eternal life on this earth is a temporary government program, all right? So you would take the money when it was 90% federal funding and 10% state funding. And then the next session it'd be 20 and 80, and until finally you were the 80 and the feds were the 20. You have to look at the regs that are attached to the federal money, and you have to say no.
so do you honestly think, Senator Scott sitting over here, Chairman Jensen sitting up here, honestly believe that this state can pull away from the federal dollar?
No,
Neither do I. And
I
that's
don't
why-
either. I don't either, but they cannot force the charter school to take the money.
So how, I know, raise my property tax, which is theft, but,
You're not gonna have to. The beauty of it is, I'm gonna come back to what I said at the first part of the thing, okay? These guys cost us 5%, okay? What your administration costs is 21. Okay, so there's plenty of funds in the ADM, the average daily membership, to more than fund the school, okay? And I've already told Pat Sweeney, who's an expert on it, that we are not gonna have to take state dollars to build a school. Okay, we're gonna be able to do it with our funds. Does that make sense to you?
no, it makes sense. And by the
Okay.
way, I'm a complete proponent of Hillsdale College. Like, I love it. I think it's a great organization.
And they take
It's a
not
great
a penny
college.
of federal funds.
I just have some apprehensions, especially of Title IX, Title I.
Yeah, and you just put yourself in a position on the parent committee so you can watch it like a hawk. There is one other point I want to make before I turn the time over to Charlie and then to you, okay? And I don't want you to miss this. Your kids are gonna love it. We haven't said that. They're gonna come home and you're gonna say, well, what'd you learn? Because you'll pretty well know, because you'll know the curriculum. And they'll tell you, because they're learning. That's why they love it. They're excited because things are presented in a way that they get it. And they love these schools. They just love these schools. So, anyway, Senator.
And I really would emphasize that we in Wyoming are lucky. We don't pay that much personal tax. The mineral industry has paid it, and we have saved a lot of that. And we are about a quarter of our state revenues coming from earnings off those savings. We're very unusual that way. And we really are funding our public schools well enough so that if we fund this through the public schools, even if we don't take as much as the typical public school for pupil funding, we'll have plenty. So if you get something the feds want where we have to turn it down because we don't like the strings, we can do it and still have the kind of first rate product we want. We are very blessed here in Wyoming that way. You look at this compared to other states, it's unbelievable what we can do, and the trouble is we're not getting that right now, and that's the point of this thing.
The charter board is
A
independent.
couple of additional questions I want to offer though. There's teachers, charter school board writes a contract. The contract is between the charter school board, which is a political subdivision, and the district board. We have to meet the stipulations of the contract. So we have to do our financing well. We have to produce for student achievement. We have to do what we said we would do. We have to follow the law. We have to provide free and appropriate education. That's the law. We have to remediate kids that are behind. But all that is laid out in the contract. So what is governed, who oversees it, is the district school board, your authorizer, but only in terms of what you agreed to do through contract.
And I would add one thing to that, and I think it's very important. The parents have a tremendous measure of control because the school gets its revenue on a per pupil basis through the contract with the school district. And if the parents don't think the education is appropriate, it's going to go the way of a business that didn't quite get it right. You fail.
Yeah, the customers leave.
Yeah, and that is a very...
Sequentially 6, 7, 8 in subsequent years, or we just take the whole middle school, right? It's good for our school if we can build in those successive blocks, but then we run into that problem of, having kids that don't know how to read, and we bring them to 7th grade. So that's a balance, but if there are, 300 families knocking down the door for 6th, 7th, and 8th, how do you say no, right? Just so that we can have good scores, just so that we can, the answer is yes, we should take those kids. The model today is grow 6, grow 7, grow 8 as we go along the years. There's a couple more questions. I just want to say, and the last thing I will say is you didn't hear anybody in this group, me certainly, none of the board members, bash on the school district. It's not our place. I haven't heard that from this board yet. I discourage boards from taking that approach. We're a choice in this school district. And I think we're going to be a really good choice. This school district particularly has great schools. They have a lot of choice options. It's a choice school district. So if you heard any of us say, poo-poo on this school district, it's just not the case. We're going to provide a positive choice with the school district's help. I want to be sure that you all take that same information away, that's this group's opinion. And I saw a hand right there.
Okay, so I would like to know what's the preparation or what kind of programs, what would you guys offer to teachers that have been teaching in the district for a very long time that are interested? So what's the teacher prep program look like?
It's good. It's really good. They bring all that's good. Okay, if you've been a teacher in this district, bring all that's good. And then Hillsdale will educate you more and make you better. That's the way it works. And the salaries will be very commensurate. How's that?
So is it a
competitive.
crash course in this new curriculum, or is it an extensive course?
So it's an extensive course.
See it being
Part of
like...
Hillsdale, the answer to your question is, if you're a member school with Hillsdale, they have a gigantic endowment that is trying to spread these schools across the country. If you're a member school, you get all of your professional development for free.
So they come out and they train your teachers. So if you read all of the what to expect while you're expecting, no, what to expect from your first grader, that's the other book. Then you would know the curriculum. And we want you to bring your quantum, your state changes, all of the things that you're good at as a teacher. They're not going to tell you that, right? But they are going to tell you what to teach. They're going to give you lesson plans, unit organizers, and they're going to provide a ton of content. If you're a member school, that's why it's so important that we try to do that. They also take the principal there and they train the principal, and they come here and do regular audits and checks on us. It's a free, and it's hugely powerful. That's why the schools do so good, is they replicate really well.
And one of the things that we're finding is
that are past events. Okay, so both need to be taught and taught well, and they are. Does that make sense?
Yes, I guess I just wanted to clarify a little bit, and I appreciate you, Senator Scott, for clarifying. I guess my other question was, how open is the curriculum to bringing in other instructional strategies or approaches, obviously utilizing the curriculum that's been
Line up.
selected?
We would like to start in September of 2023. Okay, in September of 2023. Our K through 5. Okay, and then immediately after that, start construction of at least K through 8. Okay, and hopefully the demand will be so high, okay, that we may have to lease the middle school for several years because of the demand, and we may have to put the K through 5 in the new school and the 6th, 7th, and 8th, and they say, well, you need a 9th and a 10th, and we keep leasing their school for another year or two, okay, type of thing. So it's a short-term lease with the City of Mills, all right? And at the same time, building the K through 12. I would like to see in a couple of 3 years that we're all the way through 12th grade. Fort Collins started one last year, leasing space in a church, okay? And they had 250 kids. And this year, people heard about it, how it was going, what was being learned, and et cetera, et cetera. And they went over 500 this year, okay? They thought they'd have their new school built. They don't, okay? So they're leasing some more space somewhere else, okay? So, you know, it's gonna be driven by demand. That's why it's so important that any of you, we need help. We need a lot of help, okay? And the key, the most important thing is we can fit with some remodeling, not, I mean, incredibly inexpensive, really. The Mills existing school, okay, can hold 420 with a 3-unit school. Right now, we could put a 2-unit in very, very easily. Okay, but we don't want to do that. We want to compete. We want to have a 3-unit school if we can. So that's what we're going for. So you all can help us get there.